Boy, did I blow it. I have, my spiritual gift, my dominant spiritual gift is ignorance, followed by a secondary gift of stupidity. I've blown it a whole lot of times. Really blew it a lot of times when I was a pastor and when I did things in public. I got so many stories that I'm almost embarrassed to tell y'all. I'm going to talk to you about when I got the pastor's name wrong in a public service. I'll give you a little more of that, and then I'm going to give you some other examples as well. This isn't a how-to. This is not going to be something that you will take away and say, my church is going to be better for this. I don't think. I'm just going to share with you some of the funny things that have happened with pastors in public services. Before we get to that, thank you, Belay. You know, if you watch or listen to this podcast, by the way, if you're listening to this on your favorite podcasting app, give us a rating and review. And thank you. If you watch it online at churchanswers.com, thank you. Or if you're watching this on YouTube, subscribe to us and give us a rating and review there as well. So I'm going to be talking about getting named wrong in public services. Just fun. We like to have fun every now and then. And one thing that is fun for me is that Belay is our partner in this ministry. They are our sponsor. They are our partner in ministry. And if you really want to be productive, if you want to go to a greater impact in your ministry or your job, and Belay helps a lot of different organizations, churches are among them. Our friends at Belay are productivity experts. They've helped busy church leaders become more productive, primarily through remote staffing. And if you've heard me talk about it, you've heard me say that we've been using Belay since we've been an organization at Church Answers. Just to remind you, they have a new download available. It's called The Power of Productivity. It is an ebook. You'll like this ebook. It'll give you a lot of good practical tips. Text THOM, that's THOM, at 55123. 55123, then THOM. And you'll then have that free download. Well, let's have a little fun. When I got the person's name wrong at a public service. Here's the background. All three of my sons got married within 11 months. I've heard it. The response has been, at least you didn't have daughters. Good gravy train. Still 3 weddings. I know what you're saying. Usually the parents of the bride pay more of the expenses than parents of the groom. But we volunteered to pay for their honeymoon costs, and that wasn't cheap either. I'm not going to go there. But just simply to say, my 3 sons were getting married in an 11-month period. First one to get married was my middle son, Art. Next one to get married was my oldest son, Sam. And then the last one to get married was my youngest son, Jess. So we had a wedding in the Cincinnati area in northern Kentucky. We had a wedding in Kentucky, and we had a wedding in Illinois. So basically 3 different places. 2 were in the state of Kentucky, but one of them was more in the Cincinnati metro area. In fact, the wedding was in Cincinnati, so I take that back. They lived in northern Kentucky. The wedding was in Cincinnati. So we had 3 weddings. Let me get this straight. Ohio, Kentucky, and Illinois. 3 weddings. Okay. Love my daughters-in-law. Absolutely do. My sons married up. There's no question about it. I love the fact that my grandchildren have these 3 ladies as their mother. So totally love them. I did the weddings. And first wedding I did was Art and Sarah. And that was the one in Cincinnati. Went off without a hitch. Then came time for Sam and Aaron's wedding. By the way, Sam married on New Year's Eve, and he got all the tax benefits from marrying his wife for one, and just having her as a wife for one day. And her dad still talks about that today, but that's another story too. So it came time for the wedding, and there's pretty Erin in her white gown, and there's Sam, and just a great looking couple. And you know what I said? I said, do you, Sarah, take Sam to be your husband? She looked at me and she said, my name is Erin, not Sarah. I got her name wrong. I used Sarah in the previous wedding. So and I know, what are you thinking, Tom? Well, obviously I was not thinking, but I can guarantee you that the people who were attending the wedding got a good kick out of that when they heard me say Sarah instead of Erin. And at least Erin had the confidence to speak up and say, that's not my name. That is not my name. So that was my faux pas among many. I got the person's name, the bride's name, wrong in a wedding. Thankfully, the bride corrected me. It was embarrassing at the time, but it was better than letting people know that Sam had married Sarah, because everybody knew who Aaron was. I also I heard from a pastor who got the name wrong of the baptismal candidate. And in this particular case, the baptismal candidate did not speak up and give his correct name. And so as a result, unless you knew who that person was, you thought this was a person with another name. They went under, came up, full immersion baptism, not the right name. I do think that the baptism was effective. I don't believe in baptismal regeneration, so it was not salvific, but I do think it was effective, even though the wrong name was given. That pastor said it was about the third time he had done that. I got a recommendation for that pastor that I shared with him. I was at a funeral, and at this funeral, I was not officiating it. I was called to pray because the church member's mother had died, and I was just called there to pray. And so I had a quick prayer, and then it was all graveside, and the pastor who was officiating the funeral, I don't know what he was thinking, but the person he gave was not a woman, it was a man. The name he gave, the deceased. And not only was it a man's name, but it was a living deacon who was at the funeral. I would learn all of this later. So, it's one thing for me to get my future daughter-in-law's name wrong because I was thinking about the previous wedding I'd done, or maybe I was thinking about the next one I would do. But it's another thing to be at a funeral and there is a woman that has just died, the mother of one of my church members, and it keeps repeating a male name who was a living deacon at the church. Now, here's the thing about it. I knew he was getting the name wrong. Why? First of all, I knew that was a woman that they were burying. Second of all, I could see everybody looking around and murmuring and trying to figure out what to say or what to do when they got the name wrong. So is there a lesson to this? Yep, there's a lesson. Write the name of the person down. Now, write the name of the bride. Write the name of the groom. Write the name of the baptismal candidate. Write the name of the deceased, particularly. Write it down. I know, pastors, you've done lots of weddings, you've baptized a lot of people, and you've officiated at a lot of funerals. I get that. And you feel like you got it down. Maybe sometimes we can get too comfortable and we can forget the name of the person we're marrying or baptizing or burying. Don't do that. That's just my simple admonition. Don't do that. By the way, when our family gets together now with a total of all of our grandchildren, we have 10 living grandchildren, one who's with the Lord, 11th one. And when we all get together as a family, inevitably, someone's going to remember what I did so many years ago when I called Aaron Sarah. I'm just glad when I did Rachel and Jess's wedding, I got it right. But I did mispronounce something wrong, but that's even another story. I want the name of someone, but that's another story. And my son Jess corrected me during that wedding. So just simple lesson. Write it down. Don't assume that you're going to remember it. Don't assume that in the midst of all of this, these public things, that you will know exactly who is there and what to say. You may even do something really weird and call the deceased woman by a man's name who is standing there living, listening to his own funeral. Thank you again for being a part of the Church Answers podcast. As always, Belay, our sponsor, incredible sponsor. They're the productivity experts. They've helped busy church leaders and busy other leaders with remote staffing solutions since 2010. Check out, again, their download. It's an ebook called The Power of Productivity. Just go to THOM, THOM, 555123, or go to 55123 and text THOM. That's how to do it. 55123, text THOM, and you will get this free download. A lot of great tips in it. You'll be glad that you did. As I close this out, please remember the names, write it down. You'll be glad you did. See you in the next episode. Hey, folks, this is a PS to our podcast. We got some exciting stuff that we want to offer you absolutely for free. Sam, when you think about predictive factors in a church's growth, if you take out demographics, what are some things that come to mind? Just two. I mean, don't give me a list of 10. Just 2 or 3 things that come to mind on predictive growth of a church.
Well, evangelism and whether the church is doing it or not.
Bingo.
And then I will add, is it an ongoing evangelism emphasis?
Double bingo. Well? Double, and maybe something about leadership and their commitment to that. So all of the above.
Evangelistic churches have evangelistic pastors. Is the staff, is the lead pastor doing the work themselves?
We have a free download for you, and it's actually a sheet that you can self-score. You answer 20 questions, anywhere from strongly disagree to strongly agree. And we come back and we predict what your growth rate is going to be for the next year in worship attendance. It's not a perfect tool, but it's a good tool. There's a link to that for the attendance predictor. Look in the show notes. You'll absolutely love it. That's cool. We'll see you soon.